and are independent of any organization, entity. Nothing said on the show or any of its platforms constitutes a client-attorney relationship or serves as legal advice counsel. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to Igniting Change, its platforms, or the show's host. It's time now for Igniting Change, a weekly provocative and empowering program where you, the listener, can ignite change. Now here's your host, Barbara Arnwine.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Igniting Change. Oh, we got a great show for you today. We have some extraordinary guests, and we are beyond delighted to be able to bring to you our show today. First of all, before we get into the show, Daryl Jones and I got to, bring up my mighty co-host, the leader of the board of directors of the Transformative Justice Coalition, and one of our nation's mightiest attorneys. Oh, he's bold, he's innovative, he's creative, and he's always strategic. I'm talking about none other than Daryl Jones. Hey, Daryl.
Hey, Barbara. Must be noon. Must be Tuesday at Eastern Standard Time noon, because we're talking about Igniting Change. Barbara, what an incredible show we have set today. My family, my mom's family hails out of the city of Chicago. So when we start talking about stuff in the city of Chicago, it's right at home for me. It is at home for me. And it doesn't surprise me that the city of Chicago would be leading the way when it comes to education and our children, Barbara. Not at all.
Hey, we are blessed. And, of course, the mighty Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson Sr. is in Chicago, one of our great partners. We're so happy today. Everyone, this is, quote, the State of the Union Address Day. But given what we're about to hear, which is going to be incredible nonsense, we're calling this show State of Disunion and Our Resilience. Because regardless of what they throw at us, the answer is how we respond. And so our show is State of Disunion and Our Resilience, countering the attacks on DEI and education in corporate America, commemorating the 60th anniversary of Bloody Sunday, where John Lewis and Amelia Boyce and everybody showed us how you fight back. So we are so delighted to get straight into our show, but I want to, Daryl, don't we have a word of thanks that we want to say at the outset
Barbara.
of the show? Go ahead.
Oh, absolutely, Barbara. We one of the things that I love about America's resilience is just how strong it can be. And February 28th, Blackout Friday, those that were against the implementation or removal, those that were against the removal of DEI policies in all these major box stores and every place else across the country, put in place an economic blackout this past Friday. And my goodness, Barbara, it was incredibly, incredibly effective. Can't wait to hear the substantive numbers and the impact that it's had across the country. But even if it did not have as great an impact as some may be willing to admit, we know that it's had the impact of being the clarion call of the movement saying, we're organizing, and we ain't going to stop until we knock down this dragon, Barbara.
Hey, and we know that people were absolutely amazing. People who not even folks who consider themselves political refused to shop on last Friday. And we'll have more opportunities for you to join the upcoming boycott on March 7th through the 14th against Amazon. We'll talk about that later. But let's get into the show because we have a mighty, mighty guest that you got to hear from. I am beyond delighted that the president of the Chicago Teachers Union is with us today. And that is President Stacy Davis Gates. She is a national leader in the labor movement and progressive political organizing throughout this country. She has a vision, and she's going to share with us her vision for making sure that education wraps around Black children. Oh, she's got so much to say. We can't wait to get into the show. So let us start. President Gates, welcome to Igniting Change.
Me honored to, speak to you. I've listened to you on Reverend Jackson's show for a number of years. I have always appreciated your perspective, your energy, and your clarity.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm just so impressed. You head up one of the largest teachers' unions in the country. You are a voice that people need to hear. And tell us, how many people are in the CTU? How many members do you have? What is the history of CTU? And how many students do you serve?
Well, thank you for that question. I love talking about this wonderful union. Our union is the Chicago Teachers Union Local 1. We are the first American Federation of Teachers where Randy Weingarten is the president. We're the first local. We have nearly 30,000 members at our union. We serve the entire city of Chicago. So from Hegewisch to Roseland to Inglewood to Gage Park and Pilsen to Lincoln Park to Edison Park to Logan Square in the city. Our members also have the fortune to live in this great city as well. If you work for the Chicago Public Schools, you have to live in the city. And we honor that as well because we are robust partners in this city. We work very hard to not only educate all of our students, we live here, and so we're the neighbors, and we have a great deal of engagement and coalition work, especially with community groups, because we really appreciate the fact that our union can connect with the families we serve, the students we serve, and also a lot of the community organizations to transform our school district. For a very long time, since its inception, the Chicago Public Schools has never had a democratically elected school board. Starting in 2027, we will have one. That is something that this union, in coalition with families and students, parents, and community groups, help to manifest. We also, have worked to stop school closings just here recently. They're closing charter schools now all over this country.
Wow.
If you remember, people like Arnie Duncan said that charters were the panacea.
Yes.
Right after Hurricane Katrina, he said that the best thing that happened to New Orleans public schools was Hurricane Katrina, because it wiped away the public in public schools and enabled the privatization movement to come in and pick and choose who they wanted to educate and who they wanted to hire. This is the same thing that causes the erosion of Black educators as well. So the work we've been doing here in Chicago is trying to not just expose and challenge and organize against those things, but actually advance a different vision. We believe in community-based education, where that same coalition of families and parents and students and community groups work hand in glove with all of the workers inside of the school community to create a lighthouse, an anchor for that community. So this union bargains for sustainable community schools. We should have almost 100 of those in a few years because we've put those things in our contract and we've pushed that vision forward. This union wants to be an indelible part of the legacy of how this city becomes a desegregated, people-centered space where there's equity and justice, which is contrasted, quite frankly, with the wealth and the marginal access that people get, the segregation in this city. Cook County is the wrongful conviction capital of the world. And many of those wrongful convictions happen in the city of Chicago. Chicago is also very segregated. If you live in downtown Chicago in a neighborhood called Streeterville, your life expectancy is 20 years longer than if you live on the south side of Chicago and the Inglewood neighborhood. That's in the same city. And so this union wants to be a part of transforming that and offering more. And we're up against, we have a big fight here in the city.
Yes.
And, our members have been up for it.
Oh, that's awesome. And I know Daryl is biting at the bit, but I have one other question I just have to ask you. Why did you decide to seek the presidency of the CTU? Most people run away. They see.
I tried.
So what made you walk into that breach and say, I'm going to be the leader? Tell us.
Look, I also am a woman of faith, and I also believe in the divinity that your path is already preordained, and that whether we understand the order of our steps or not, they are ordered. And so I consider it a blessing to lead this union, and I'm humbled every day to do it.
All right. Daryl?
Wow. And, President Gates, as you may have heard in the opening, I certainly have a soft spot in my heart for Chicago. But I tell you, you're in the middle of the eye of the storm, right?
Woo.
I mean, with the Trump administration's mass deportation effort that's going on there, and the backlash that Mayor Johnson has received because of the migrants that are coming to the city, the Chicago public schools are standing strong for their children that they're teaching there. Could you share with our audience how the Trump administration's mass deportation efforts have affected the students and teachers?
Well, you've said two things, and so if I might, I want to unpack this first macro and then micro, if that's okay.
Sure.
You said we're in the eye of the storm, and I think you're right. I think you missed one component of that eye of the storm. So, yes, we are in a situation where Donald Trump is using the xenophobia that fuels his leadership to target a sanctuary city. And by the way, our sanctuary status was first created and minted by Mayor Harold Washington, who was the first Black mayor of this city. This is not something that's new. This is what Harold Washington did, by the way, during the Ronald Reagan administration. I'm also a history teacher. I'm not just a union leader. And I think it's important to have that context, because even Ronald Reagan wasn't as monstrous as Donald Trump is. And that's saying a lot. So that's number one. I think number two, listen, being in the eye of the storm in Chicago has also meant that corporate Democrats have been just as cruel and terrible to teachers, working people, and Black people in this city, to be perfectly frank. It was Rahm Emanuel who closed 50 schools in this city. It was Rahm Emanuel who covered up the murder of a Black teenager on the south side of this city. That's a Democrat, right? So, yes, we are in the eye of the storm. And even within the eye of the storm, we're going to negotiate a contract that provides housing to our students who are unhoused. We have about 20,000 students in this city that do not have homes. The vast majority of those students are Black students. They're not migrant students. And so when people talk about the migrants from Venezuela that came here, who, again, I'm a history teacher, by the way, are our cousins. If you understand the transatlantic slave trade, you understand that both South Central America along with Mexico are made by and large by, Africans and their ability to be